it seeks to answer this question: what is the true potential of our consciousness? So we can see that there's a commonality to many spiritual traditions, that they actually, part of the teaching is founded on dissatisfaction, that there's an inherent dissatisfaction in life. And that might sound a bit depressive. What kind of selling point is this? But the first tenet of Buddhism is the truth of suffering. So I detect some accents here in the room. So you probably weren't born in New Zealand. So you've come here for a reason. And when we're feeling content, when we're feeling happy, we become somewhat complacent, and there's no necessity to rock the boat. We'll just stay where we are and we're happy. We don't need to do anything, just enjoy the happiness that we have. But when there's something in the heart that's not quite feeling that satisfaction, we feel the need to go here and there, to travel, to explore, to meet new people, to have new experiences. There's nothing wrong with this. So yoga accepts this fact of our existence, that there's no lasting satisfaction here in the material world. And the soul longs for a lasting state of peace and happiness. And without inner peace, you cannot enjoy happiness. If someone came in the room right now and said, with a gun, and said, I'm going to blow your head off in 2 minutes, but would you like an ice cream? Would you enjoy that ice cream? No. So we must have some degree of inner peace, even just to experience material happiness. But inside, there's always some underlying anxiety. I'm going to die. I'm going to get old. I'm going to have some disease. So we cannot find this lasting happiness in this plane. Of course, we can have some beautiful experiences. So in the Sharika Karika, it is said, Sarvam Dukam. There's an inherent dissatisfaction in life. So yoga seeks to solve this problem. How can we find lasting satisfaction? So it is quite well known, actually, that yoga means union. It means connection. And yoga has become a global industry worth over $120 billion globally. It's there in every village all over the world. You can practice some yoga. But what is the deeper essence of this yoga? It means first to connect with yourself. Who are you really? You're not your experiences. You're not your thoughts in your mind. You're not what your parents told you. You're not even what you think about yourself. You're much, much more than that. So first, we need to connect with ourselves. And then to have that union, to have that yoke, because yoga means yoke, to connect. It is to connect the individual self, that is the soul, the Atman, with the supreme self in a divine, loving relationship. So that is the true purpose of the system of yoga. So today is also the solstice. So if you block your right nostril with your right hand, this finger, take a few breaths in and out. And then with the other hand, block the left nostril. You can let go of the right, so you can breathe. Go and let go. Did anyone notice that one nostril is flowing more freely than the other side?
Yes.
So one nostril is generally flowing more freely than the other. And then after 90 minutes, it will change, and the other side will now be flowing more freely. Now that nostril that's flowing more freely, the opposite hemisphere of the brain, that is more active. And then when that changes, the other hemisphere of the brain will become more active. This is a whole science of yoga in itself, known as Swara Yoga. So when you have different hemispheres of the brain active, different activities will work out more easier for you. Ever tried to do something, you've done it many times before and it's just difficult? It's because the opposite hemisphere of the brain is flowing at that time. So how's this relevant to today? Because today is solstice, equilibrium. So for the yogis, they regulate their breath through pranayama, and both nostrils flow freely. And when that happens, the cerebral spinal fluid in the spine begins to flow, and dormant areas of the brain, they become awakened. So everyone who is doing some spiritual practice, the yogis do this mechanically, but through various spiritual modalities, the two hemispheres of the brain become an equilibrium, and then your consciousness begins to blossom like a lotus flower, and your contextual horizon, it begins to expand, because at the moment we are within the confines of our limited impressions in our mind, but the supreme reality exists beyond that. So Patanjali said in Yoga Sutras, yoga begins when your mind is calm, like a calm lake, and you can see your reflection. But when the lake is oscillating so many waves, you cannot see your reflection, you cannot understand who you are. So when the mind is moving, we don't know who we are. And whatever thought is coming in the mind in that moment, oh yes, that is me. Always moving, not steady. So yogasthita vritti nirodha, Patanjali has said. And when the lake of the mind is clear, tadadras rahu surupe vastanam. You're abiding in your true self. If you're not abiding in your true self, sarupam iti ratya. You're lost in the lake of your mind. And Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, samattam yoga uchate. Yoga is equilibrium of mind. So he's saying the same thing. You can understand who you are, where you come from, and what is your place in reality only when the mind is peaceful. So different spiritual modalities, they have different practices to how to bring your mind calm. So in yoga, it's described in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you should sit steady, sit up nice and tall, sit by a body of water out in the forest on a deerskin mat, away from everyone. That's the practice of a yogi. He didn't say, do Iyengar down on Queen Street. So generally, most people aren't inclined to go living in the forest under a tree. This is not the only kind of yoga. So one time there was one yogi, and he went to the Himalayas, and he thought, I want to be a Siddha yogi. I want to have mystic powers. So he went high up into the mountains, and he was standing in Vrikasana, tree posture, on one foot, the other one like that, and like this. In a yoga class you may have done it, Vrikasana, tree posture. And he was standing there for a long time, and his hair grew into jata, into dreadlocks. He had a beard, and he was under one tree. And on that tree was one branch, and it was giving him some shade, hot sun in the Himalayas. Even though it's very high, during the day it can actually get quite hot. And so he was standing there, and he was chanting his mantra. What's the mantra of the yogis? Anyone know? That is that one, but he wasn't chanting that one yet. Just the first part. Om. So sit up nice and tall, be a yogi. Connect your sitting bones down into the earth. Lengthen the spine. Relax the shoulders. And take a deep breath in. Exhale out through the mouth. Do that a couple more times, release any tension. Exhale through the nose. Inhaling for Om. Twice more. So the yogi was standing on one leg high in the Himalayas for a long time, chanting his mantra. And one day, on that branch above his head, one bird came. He was all alone there in the Himalayas, but this bird was there. And the bird landed on the tree, and it was looking down at this yogi as he was chanting his mantra. And then that bird felt an urge. The urge to answer the call of nature. And that bird answered the call of nature, and it went down onto the face of that yogi. What would you do? So this yogi, he'd been there for a long time, his hair had grown into jata, into dreadlock, and then he looked at that bird, very angry. And then fire came from his eyes and it incinerated that bird to pieces. Then he looked around and he thought, did you see that? I've become a Siddha yogi. A yogi with mystic powers. And he looked around. No one saw it because he's alone in the Himalayas. So then, now he's obtained perfection in his practice. He has mystic powers. In the 3rd chapter of Yoga Sutras, Vibhuti-pada, it is described a whole list of mystic powers that come when you practice meditation deeply. So he was walking quite some time and he came across a village. And then there was one old lady there. And she was cooking. And she was making one sabji, mixed vegetables. And in Indian cooking, you make a chaunch. You fry the spices separately, then you add it to the vegetables or to the lentils. So she was making the chaunch, and you've got to be careful you don't burn the seeds. So that yogi came along, and he said, "Oi, you, get me a glass of water." And then that old lady said, yeah, just wait. I've just got to finish the spices. And then he looked at her. How dare she make me wait? I'm a Siddha yogi. And he looked at her, waiting for the fire to come. Nothing happened. That was strange. And then that yogi said, "Do you know who I am?" And that woman said, yes, you're a Siddha yogi, I know. But just wait, I have to add this spice. And that yogi got fed up and he left. And he found another villager. And that villager, he was grinding mustard seeds for mustard oil. And then that yogi said, "Oi, you, get me a glass of water." And then that man said, "Yes, just wait, I've just got to crush these seeds." And then he looked at him. Nothing happened. He thought, this place is very strange. Where did my power go? And then that man said, "Just wait, I need to finish the seed." And the yogi got fed up, and then he went to someone else. So also he told that person, "Oi, you, get me a glass of water." And they said, "No, just wait, I just got to finish doing this." And he looked at her. Nothing happened. And then that yogi said, "What is this place? My powers don't work here." And then that woman said, "Oh, go back and ask that woman you met at the start of the village." And the yogi thought, how does she know about that woman? This place is very strange. So he went back to that woman. And then that yogi said, "What is this place? My mystic powers don't work here." And then that old lady, she said, "We're also yogis. We look after our families. We tend to the crops in the garden. We look after our cows. We raise our children. We sing to the divinity. Everything we do is an offering for the divine. And we take care of our duties. But you were up there all alone in the Himalayas for years, and all the power you accumulated, you spent that on killing one bird. What is the use?" So we're also yogis, but we're bhakti yogis. Because in the Puranas, in the histories of India, yogi is actually someone who's feared. They live in the forest. They accumulate power, many years playing with energy, but they still have ego. So the word yogi in India, particularly in history, it was someone to be a little bit fearful of, because they can grant boons, benedictions, but they can also curse you if they become frustrated. They can burn you to ashes with their power. So a yogi is not a sadhu, is not a saint. Because often a yogi goes to the Himalayas because he wants power for himself. But that lady in the village, everything she does is an offering to the divine. So that is bhakti yoga, the yoga of loving devotion. And that bhakti yoga is so powerful. There's a supreme conscious being that is the source of everything, sarvakara karanam, the final cause, the prime mover, adikarta. He can create millions and millions of universes without even breaking a sweat. But that supreme being becomes conquered, even though he's unconquerable, by the love of his devotee. And everything he does is only for the love of his devotee. So many traditions around the world, they get together and they sing to the divinity, to the source. And it reminds them who they are, where they've come from, and where they're going. And sound is so powerful, it transcends difference. It transcends ethnicity. It transcends religion. It transcends belief. It transcends any difference. We connect together through sound. What happens at a rock concert? People go crazy over sound. This is just material sound. Sound is so powerful. If anyone says, "Oh, I love you," oh, it feels so good. If someone says, "I just backed into your car," sorry. Even if it's just words, right? Oh, we have some experience. But this mantra, it's not material sound. Mantra is comprised of two words. Manas means mind, and tra means triate, that which delivers you from the oscillations of your material mind, because we're just lost in the whirlpools of the thoughts in our mind all the time. And we cannot see reality. We only see through these lens of thoughts in our mind. But what happens when we take this lens of interpretation off? What is reality? What is this world? What is your sister? Who is your brother? Who is your father? Who is your partner? Who is God? When we take off the lens of garbage, we have no experience. But through mantra, that can give experience. And there are many, many mantras. But the prominent one we'll be singing tonight, that is called Maha Mantra. Maha means great. So, if you had a mantra that can give you anything, because this Maha Mantra, it is kalpavriksha, it can fulfill any desire you have. You want to be the next Donald Trump? Yep, chant this mantra. You want $1 million? Chant this mantra. You want pure love? Chant this mantra. If you're Christian, if you're atheist, if you're Muslim, chant this mantra. It'll make you a better Muslim. It'll make you a better Christian. Whatever you do, it'll bring all auspiciousness to it. Madhura Madhura Mitan Mangalam Mangalanam Sakala Nigama Vali Satvalam Chitswarupam Sakrid Api Parigritam Sada Harava Briguvaranara Matram Taya Krishna Nama. This is the sweetest of the sweet. So Om is like a seed. Everyone knows the mantra Om. It's like the seed of a mango. And you plant that seed in the ground, and then that seed grows into a tree. Leaves come, branches come, and then after some time a flower comes. And then on that flower the fruit develops. And first it's green, and then it becomes yellow, red, ripe. And then a parrot comes along and pecks that fruit. When a bird pecks the fruit, the sugar content increases and it becomes even more sweet. So this Maha Mantra, it is the ripened, sweetened, highest fruit of the tree of the Vedas. And it can give you anything. So if you have something that can give you anything, what are you going to ask for? Please fill up my gas tank. Give me a partner. Give me this, give me that. Intelligent person, they will ask, what is good for me? So there are many scriptures, but the king of all scriptures, Grantarajam and Bhagavatam, it is founded on 6 questions. And one of those questions is, what is my ultimate welfare? What is my ultimate welfare? What is the best possible thing for me, for my soul? This Maha Mantra can give you that. That's why it's Maha. That's why it's great. So, thank you for patiently listening. Now Anupam will be chanting this Maha Mantra. And it's call and response, so it's not a musical performance. So with Kirtan, whoever's leading, they'll be chanting the mantra one time, and then it's our turn to respond. So it's like a dance, back and forth, and fully absorb your mind in the mantra and your mantra in your mind. Open the doors of your heart and allow the mantra to come through and fully immerse yourself. Let go of anything you even think you know about the mantra and just fully open yourself to the experience and just See the result. Hare Krishna.